Welcome to Man About Danville with Logan H. Germann, a podcast for Danville, Kentucky and beyond. Conversations with friends, and you get to listen. Brought to you by the Logan Company, a commercial and residential real estate brokerage for Danville and Central Kentucky. 80% Danville-centric, 20% eccentric.
Good morning, Danville, Kentucky. You are listening to Man About Danville, Danville, Kentucky's favorite podcast. I am the man about Danville himself, Logan H. Germann. Thank you so much for joining me, whether you are in the car, driving to work, on your commute, on a road trip, out for a run, out for a jog, working late at the office, mowing your yard, cutting hay, cutting tobacco, slopping the hogs, milking the cows, whatever you're doing. I certainly appreciate you making this podcast a part of your day. Whatever you're doing, I certainly appreciate you making this podcast a part of your day. Got a special Man About Danville shout out this week. If you listened to an episode 53 about 4 episodes ago, I interviewed Coach Drew Breezy. He's the baseball coach from Center. He was named the USA Baseball 15U National Team Manager. Not only was he named the manager, that was an honor in itself, but he won a world championship with the team. They went to Mexico, played teams from all over the planet, and won the whole darn thing. So he is not only the coach, he's also now a world champion. Shout out to him. If you haven't listened to that episode, it's great. Episode 53, go back, check it out. And congrats, Coach Breezy. Now look, I'm not saying he's a world champion because he came on this podcast. But coincidence? You make the call. If you enjoyed this podcast, and if you're listening at this point, I assume you do, I'd appreciate it if you give me a like or a review wherever you listen. Those really help me with the ratings and help spread the word about the show. I've got a return guest with me this week. Steve Hoffman is the executive director of the Norton Center for the Arts. You know, I'm a huge fan of the Norton Center for the Arts, and Steve does a great job managing it. He sits down with me this week to talk about the new season and everything going on there at the Norton Center. Let's get it going. I am with my friend Steve Hoffman. He's the executive director of the Norton Center for the Arts right here in the middle of Danville. Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being with me. Steve, we talked about a year ago. I did this podcast, my idea was to talk with people who are friends of mine, and there were a couple of episodes I knew I was going to do basically every year. I wanted to do the Great American Brass Band Festival, and you. Because you guys release a new performing arts calendar about this time every year. And I think the Norton Center is one of the great assets that our community has. Whenever somebody's moving here from out of town, I always point it out and say, you got to go in. Here it is from the outside, but you got to go in. You got to go check it out. You got to see what they have. It's a phenomenal space to listen to a performance. It's incredibly comfortable. There's not a bad seat. You're the director. We met 10, 12 years ago now.
A little longer. Yeah.
It was about this time,
years.
12 years ago.
Yes.
And that was about the time you came to town.
Right.
And so you've been here.
This is my 13th year here.
You've got a few seasons under your belt at this point. You know what you're doing. You knew what you were doing when you got here. But anyway, I'm glad to be with you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here and glad to know you.
Let's just kick things off. Steve, at the start of a new season, how is the Norton Center for the Arts doing? Are you guys seeing the folks coming back for shows?
Well, you know, with COVID, with the pandemic, the arts were the first to shut down and were the last to reopen. And last year was our first season back, and we actually did pretty well. This year, it's actually interesting. There was a New York Times article recently that was talking about the state of performing arts. And as you would imagine, the big name rock shows and arena type shows and country shows, those are selling really well, and the people who produce those and promote those shows will tell you. And in this article, they said that they're making like $100 million above last year, and I mean it's just incredible.
That is incredible. People, I guess, are just really tired of sitting around the house.
Yeah, they want to go to what they want to, what they know, what they love, and they want to spend the money on it. And we're not that kind of venue. We're not able to bring in a big name like the Rolling Stones or Pink or U2.
My daughter wouldn't mind if you brought in Harry Styles.
I'll work on it. Let me call him. Here,
make a phone. You got people, Steve.
I'll call him. He's in my cell phone now. But when you start talking about the Broadway musicals, and you would think Broadway would be doing the same thing. Well, this article talked about how Broadway wasn't and it's dipped. So they said that in this article there was a group of consultants, and we actually work with this consultant, and they said that in an aggregate way, the numbers are about 60% of where they were pre-COVID. And when we started last year, all we wanted to do is maintain our subscribers and our single ticket buyers. And we did a really good job of that. We ended up in the black this past year. And then going into this season already, we're bucking the trend. I mean, the New York Times is saying all of this, everything except for the blockbusters are going down. We're actually showing a slight uptick in our ticket sales. And I mean, our subscriptions, people who are buying more than 3 shows at a time, are ahead of where we were last year. So that's really good news for Danville and for our community.
Last year, you guys had a COVID policy. Are you all going to have anything like that this year?
Well, we follow the policy of the college, and right now the college indicates that masks are recommended, but not enforced. So basically, business as usual. If there's a change, what we do, if you buy tickets to a show right the week before, we'll send an email out saying, here's the specifics. There are times that an artist might tell us we really need the audience to wear masks. They have tried to tell us in the past they need to be, vaccinated. I'm like, not in Kentucky. That's not gonna. Good luck with that.
Well, you can't ask everybody to show a vaccination card as they come through the door. But
they have. Some people do. Some places still are looking for that, but not in our region.
At one point, you had a refund policy if you tested positive or something along those lines. Is that still in effect?
As a subscriber, that is still in effect.
Okay.
Single ticket buyers, when you buy your ticket, there's no refunds or exchanges. We will work with you to exchange it most likely, but when you buy more than 3 shows in a package or just throughout the year, we will work with you.
Okay, so that's an added benefit for subscribers.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you're buying shows that aren't going to happen until March, you've got some safety there, knowing that there may be a contingency plan.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about your Tastemaker series.
Great. So we have this program called the Tastemaker Series, and if you think about what a tastemaker is, they're an influencer. They're someone who takes the risk and tries something new, and when they like it, they're going to tell all their friends. Probably if they don't like it, they're going to tell all their friends too. But with our series, what I started to notice, especially with Wisiger Theater, which is our small 370-seat theater, it's so intimate, and we bring in shows that bend genres. You don't know if it's classical or jazz. It's just great music or great arts.
Steve, I think I saw a bluegrass version of Tommy here in Wisiger Theater.
You did?
Yeah. Okay. I
the
thought
Hillbenders.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And that's and just taking something that people are familiar with and looking at it in a different way. And the mandolin player, who is also the lead singer for the Tommy program, he's virtuosic. I mean, he's classically trained. And so trying to make sure that no matter what, quality is there. And people can tell good quality. You don't have to have any experience in music to know or theater to know if you like something or not. So we will set the bar high and then make sure that the programming is diverse and really pretty incredible. So with the Tastemaker series this year, we have 6 artists that are both in Wisiger Theater and Newland Hall. Everything from a bluesy, country, rockabilly singer who's already occurred, Tammy Nielsen, to a duo from Sweden named Symbio. And I saw them pre-COVID in New Orleans at an international folk festival. And I went up to them and said, you guys are coming to Danville. Their music, if you've ever heard of a hurdy-gurdy and an accordion, you would go, I don't know if I want to see that. I guarantee you'll enjoy it. Their music is sonic. It's like cinema music. They're rock. They love rock music growing up. And if you've ever heard of EDM, electronic dance music, I call their music ADM because they're acoustic. It's acoustic dance music. They have a drum beat to it, a drum pedal, and it just gives you this really passive cool feeling, and the music is so lush. It doesn't sound like an accordion, and it doesn't sound like a hurdy-gurdy. Not that most of us know what that sounds like, but it's an ancient instrument, and it sounds so contemporary. You would hear it on, like I said, an EDM concert. So those are the first two with tastemakers. Then we have Step Africa, which is a dance company based out of Washington, D.C., and they focus primarily on traditional and contemporary African dance. But then what makes them incredible, they specialize in step dancing. And if you're familiar with the black fraternities and sororities.
The movie Step the Yard.
Yeah, where they line up and it's just really physical, rhythmic, in a line. And it's an experience that once you see it, you'll want to keep seeing it.
And it's interesting. You can trace the roots of a step show straight back to traditional African dance.
Yeah. So this will be a way to talk about the history of it. And these, the dancers in the company are very education driven. So we're doing a school matinee for kids, and we've got a couple of workshops and opportunities to learn more about that.
Are they going to be in Wisiger too?
They're going to be in Newland Hall.
Okay.
We expect that to be pretty big. And the student matinee sales are already doing really well.
And for a dance show like that, you really need the big stage so they can have full room to move.
So that's really neat. And then we have a pianist. His name's Dominic Cayley, and I worked with him. He's a young, up-and-coming classical pianist, and I got to mentor him for a while in New York a couple of years ago. And I said, all right, it's time to bring you to Danville. And we talked about the program, and he said, I do this. One of the programs I do takes visual art and the composers interpret the visual art into music. And there's a really famous piece called Pictures at an Exhibition by Mussorgsky. And it was all about this composer Mussorgsky who went to an art exhibition, and he saw each piece and he started writing compositions about each one of them. So Dominic, and originally it was composed for piano, and now there's also an orchestral version. It's a really popular piece. Dominic is taking those images, and they'll be displayed over his piano and in the back of the stage, so that you can be inspired and see what Mussorgsky was doing during that time. And there's also Rachmaninoff and Ravel, and so it's a very, again, melodic, lush, almost pop classical concert with just a single pianist. And so those are less familiar as part of the Tastemaker, but we have two that are really familiar names that I still consider tastemakers because of their nuance. So Kathy Mattea, who is now the host of World Stage, which is a radio program on public radio, Mountain Stage, I'm sorry. Her biggest hit is 18 tons and 18 wheels and a dozen roses. 18 wheels and a dozen roses. See, now you know because you heard my voice.
Now it all comes back to me.
Well, she and her friend Susie Boggess, another really popular country musician who's been around a long time, they never get a chance to play together, and they admire each other so much that we were able to ask for them to come together.
So they're not doing this all over the country, are they?
They're going to do it in like 3 or 4 spots.
Huh.
And when I found out that was a possibility, that to me was unique, to get these two really incredible female country/folk artists and have them. And it's not just a double bill. Kathy and Susie will be on stage together the entire time with just them and their guitars. And they're going to be playing their own hits and harmonizing with each other and telling stories. So it's like going to Nashville to a round robin and hearing the story behind the music with two Grammy-winning stars talking to each other about their own songs.
It sounds kind of like an episode of Austin City Limits.
Yes, yeah.
Right here. You don't have to stay up till 11 o'clock on Saturday night or whatever it comes on. But
so I'm really excited about that. I admire both musicians for what they've done through the years, and that's just really special for our community. And that'll be in Newland Hall. And then we've had Bailiff Fleck here in the past, and we reached out and we found out that he was touring with Edgar Meyer, a bass player who is Americana and classical. Bailiff Fleck, if you don't know, is probably the foremost banjo player in the world. And his Flecktones projects are all spacey, jazz, fusion, and then he does classical on the banjo, and he's got his bluegrass projects. Well, when we had him here the last time, he was with a string quartet performing music that he wrote for a string quartet and banjo. This year, he is with Edgar Meyer, this Grammy-winning bass player, who we had here with Chris Thiele from the Punch Brothers and a couple of years ago, and Zakir Hussain, who's from India, who plays the Indian drums, the tabla. And the three of them recorded an album a while ago that won a Grammy. So between them, there were all three of them, there were 32 winning Grammys, not even nominated, just winning Grammys. And this is going to be a return of them to be performing that album plus more music. It mixes bluegrass and classical and jazz. It's one of those experiences people are not going to forget. It's just incredible. So that is our Tastemaker series. And you can see just in my describing them, each one you might scratch your head going, what? But they all make sense and they complement each other as a series. You're getting a little bit of dance, you're getting a little bit of pop, you're getting a little bit of country, classical, but it's all just amazing.
So often, or not, but in the past, Leela said, I want to go see this show, or we just happened to have tickets for something, and I didn't know what to expect. And every time I've been in the Norton Center not knowing what to expect, my expectations were exceeded. It was always, it may not have been my favorite genre of music, but I was always blown away by whoever the performer was in such an intimate setting, and they can really communicate what they want to with an audience, and it's just always a phenomenal experience coming here. Well, all right, so that's your Tastemakers. How many shows was that? 6, 8?
6.
All right, but wait, there's more.
Wait, there's more.
All right, so what other series do you have?
Well, why don't we just think about the rest? The other series are choose your own.
Okay.
And you can choose the Tastemakers or any part of them as part of your series. And as a Tastemaker subscriber, you also get an invitation to have a reception afterward. We have a reception to attend. For the most part, the artists are attending those as well. There are at least one this upcoming year that due to COVID, one has said, I can't do it. I live in New Zealand, and if I'm going to get home, I have to test negative, and this is something I just can't do. I can't do a reception. And we respect that.
Sure.
We understand that. But that's the carrot. And you get a 25% discount as a Tastemaker. Then you can buy any of the other shows and still get 25% off on all the others. So you can then create your own package. And the next package I see people purchasing, and what I mean is they're looking and going, I want these shows. The next most popular shows are our Broadway.
Okay.
And we have a lot of Broadway because from COVID the last 2 years, these Broadway shows were being produced and touring, and then they stopped. And some new shows got added, but some of those other shows didn't tour, and they're still around, so they wanted to keep them going.
And you've got 4 Broadway shows coming to town.
Yes.
That's at least double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we usually get 1, maybe 2. And to have 4, that's pretty big for us. And that's doing well. The one, Pirates of Penzance, which is a Gilbert and Sullivan show, that was part of our season last year, and due to COVID, they had to cancel their tour, and we said, hey, we're with you when you come back next year. And we were doing well with ticket sales last year, and we're still doing really well. So Pirates of Penzance it's the least known. But if you watch The Simpsons, if you Google Simpsons Pirates of Penzance, you will see in one of the funniest episodes of singing one of the pieces from that song. It's from that musical. It's so fast paced.
But that's just a big old fashioned Broadway musical show.
Yes. Yep. And then we have, in terms of another, it's not totally contemporary, but it's fairly contemporary, or traditional Chicago the musical, and Cats the musical. and which is beloved. And
Broadway icons both.
Yeah. And then the newest icon is Hairspray that we have coming. People always ask, what about Wicked? What about Hamilton? And I'm still waiting for Wicked. It's been 12 years since I've been here, and I keep asking about it. And the response I get from their management is, it's going to be another lot of years. My benchmark is we'll see it in Lexington before we see it here. And that's just part of the industry. They need to play bigger places, and then they'll start scaling down. So
when you realize our community, the city's about 12 or 15,000, the whole county's 25,000. To be able to pull in brand name musicals like you just talked about, that's a huge. As was it Dr. Roush that said we punch above our weight down here? Well, that's exactly it. You don't expect shows of that caliber to wind up in little old Danville. When are those shows coming throughout the year?
So Chicago is coming up. That's October 11th. Hairspray is November 1st. And then in the spring, on February 27th, we have Cats, and March 24th is the Pirates of Penzance. I should say nortoncenter.com. You can get the entire season listing, so don't worry about writing down dates and things because you just go to our website and it's all right there, so you can get at a glance all the different shows.
You can purchase tickets through the website. Mm-hmm. Can you pick your seats through the website too?
You can.
Okay.
You can. So those are our 4 Broadway shows. We have 1 theater piece, and I've brought in the past one-man Star Wars, one-man Lord of the Rings, and one-man Dark Knight.
Dark Knight, that's the one I saw.
And I love that farce, like getting the trilogy and seeing it abbreviated into 60 or 70 minutes. So this year, it's been a few years, and it's actually playing in Vegas right now. There's a show called Potted Potter, and it is all 7 Harry Potter books in 70 minutes, performed by 2 people doing all the characters, and there'll be a live Quidditch game. And if you're not a Harry Potter fan and don't know what a Quidditch game is like, come and find out, or watch the movie or read the book. But it's going to be a really fast-paced, fun show. We shouldn't have gotten it because for their licensing, they only want to be in venues that seat 1,000 people or less, and for their own royalties. And I convinced them that we'll just sell 1,000 seats and come to our venue. And they agreed to that. We have a student matinee, which I'm sure will be really popular. And that's on December 1st of this year.
That'd be such a fun thing to do with your kids that love Harry Potter.
It's great, family-friendly. And if you don't know Harry Potter, it'll be a fun, fast-paced show.
And it starts at 7:30. By the way, I love that your stuff starts at 7:30 so often. It's a little bit of difference, but it seems like it makes a big difference, especially for young people when I got to get somebody back home and they've got school the next day. It's great to be able to start a show at 7:30.
Well, we listened to the community and our constituents, and they said, it's so hard at 8 o'clock during the week and even on a weekend, getting home at 10 or 10:30, leaving the theater at that time. That's hard. So that was a way to scale it back a little bit. The other thing that we're doing to accommodate from what we heard from our patrons is if there's shows that typically have an intermission or it's an option, I usually opt out of the intermission and let's just get us through 70 or 80 minutes and you get your taste and you get the show and on your way home to finish your evening or go to bed so that you have work the next morning.
Are you all going to be doing like receptions or gatherings before shows in the lobby?
So we have gatherings, which are kind of jam sessions and meet the artist for musicians, and anyone can attend and watch, or you can bring your instrument. And sometimes, like with Bela Fleck and Edgar Meyer and Zakir Hussain, they're like, yeah, we're fine with a group coming right after our sound check. Bring your instruments and we'll jam. And, that's
Think
incredible.
about that.
Getting to jam with Grammy-winning artists and get to just hang out with them or just come and experience that with them. That's really incredible.
Where else can you do that? I mean, that's I can't believe we're going to put that on the podcast. You're just going to have everybody and their brother show up with.
I would love it.
But here's me playing with Bela Fleck. Mine, not that I'm going, but
well, you should. So that kind of that's what we call gatherings, and then we have pre-show entertainment in our lobbies in the Newland Hall shows, and we've last year we started calling them pop-up parties. And we have little token gifts that might connect to the show. I think with Velocity Irish Dance last year, everyone got a little corked bottle with a 4-leaf clover in it. Just something cute, memorable, something to have. So we'll figure out what we're doing this year with those. We also work with trying to find local performers to perform in the theater, in the lobby before the show starts. And for me, that's a mission-related opportunity to show our community that just because we're bringing in Grammy-winning banjo player doesn't mean we don't have amazing musicians in our community. So let's showcase them and get everyone excited to say, oh, we have this in Central Kentucky. And now we're going to go in and see the world-class group that people pay tickets to see.
And you'll have snacks and beverages available at the lobby beforehand.
So this year, 2 really cool new things. First, we're working with Parkhurst Dining, which is our caterer on campus. They're brand new, and they're working with us. They're going to take over the concessions, and we're thrilled. And they're working with local vendors, and they're working with local ingredients for some of their products that they make. So it's going to be expanded, and we'll have charcuterie boards and antipasta containers and hummus, as well as cookies and cakes and different desserts. So that's really exciting for us. The other is, starting at the end of September, we will also be serving alcohol, which we've never been able to do, and that should be a really nice. I don't think it's going to make or break someone coming. But Logan, in your case, you said, I went to this show and I didn't know anything about it. For the person who wants to come, it's like, well, you can get a drink at the bar beforehand and then, chill. And I think that'll help that transition. We're going to Danville. We can grab a cocktail. There'll be a specialty cocktail paired with each of the shows. So they'll be named and creatively put together just as a theme to complement the show. So it'll be fun. But we'll also have other beer and wine and
soft drinks if that's more your cup of tea. And in the lobby, before a show in the lobby, you see the whole world. You see all of everybody who's anybody in Danville's in the lobby of the Norton Center for a good show. So that'd be a nice opportunity to come have a glass of wine, mingle, see folks that you haven't seen in the past 2 years, and still get to enjoy a world-class show.
I'm glad you said that, because that's what we kept hearing and what we wanted to reinforce when we created the pop-up parties. Something fun that you come a little early and you can hang out with friends or meet new friends. The tastemakers, to make it more communal. Here are people with similar interests of, I want to try something new. Well, let's have a reception afterward so we can all be social and engage in that way. The other new thing that we're doing this year is all the concessions, even in Wissager Theater, will be at the Newland Hall foyer, the grand foyer, so that for 2 purposes. Now there'll be more room there where you can buy your beverages or pick your food. And it also will give people more bathroom opportunities and choices, and let them see the art exhibit that we have. And that's probably the next thing we can chat about. We are partnering with the Danville Boyle County African American Historical Society.
For more context on this, go back 2 episodes where I talked to Michael Hughes.
Oh, great.
Go ahead.
So, and Michael has been our key person, and if he spoke with you about this, we have an exhibit that's called the We Were Here exhibition, and it's African Americans in Boyle County, and really what it looks at is a time period when urban renewal hit and segregation started to change, and what happened to our black communities. I didn't know that Boyle County had 16 black neighborhoods at one time.
It's a piece of history that's basically gotten bulldozed.
Right.
Quite literally and figuratively.
Very well put. So this exhibit is going to have photos and text panels with all the different people celebrating their lives of recreation and churches and schools, and just the people as well as a timeline from the 50s, 60s to the 90s, 2000, and during that time. And part of it's our own community role in that. And I'm going to say community and include Center College, because Center College had a role in this transition of our community and what that meant to our Black friends and neighbors. So it's going to be powerful. What adds this another layer is our students from the college worked with the Historical Society to do oral histories and interview people in the community. And most of these people are between 60 and 95 years old. So they've got a knowledge of our community, where we lived, far more than me. I've only been here 13 years. So they're talking about what it was like at their times. And what's really interesting is looking at the Vietnam era citizen and the Korean War citizen, and how different they were even between those two eras in the same locations. So there'll be listening stations where you can actually hear people telling their stories, and that's really significant.
Oh, that's really cool. So you walk up, take in a piece of visual art, and get a story to go with it.
Right, and the text panels will be more factual. They'll say this, a lot of them will be sourced through the newspapers and whatever other public information we were able to find. The oral histories are more personal testimonies, and then the photos are more visual, just documents, a snapshot of a moment in time. So it's a really cool experience to look at ethos, pathos, and logos, looking at all three ways we have discourse.
Is that exhibition going to be up throughout the year, or?
Yeah, it'll go through May.
Okay.
And it's really, really exciting. And what we did as the Norton Center, in addition to producing the exhibit in conjunction, it was a partnership. This was something that we couldn't have done for the community. This is definitely done with the community, and we listened a lot. It was really humbling to hear these stories.
And if you don't have to come in for a show to experience it.
Correct.
You can just walk in off the street. You guys are here most every business day. So if someone wants to, they can just come in.
Absolutely. There's no admission charge. And what we chose to do is add some performances to complement the exhibits. So one of the performances is called Making Cake and Other Stories of Community and Food. And there are 3 poets laureate. Don't be afraid. I said poet. We're not going to really, it's not poetry recitals. What we're going to have are 3 storytellers. And they're going to be telling stories about our community or their community, and as it relates to history and community and food. And the out-of-towner, Dasha Kelly Hamilton, she's the poet laureate of Wisconsin, and her program is the signature piece this year of this program, and it's called Making Cake. And she goes through the process of baking a cake as a metaphor for racial and class disparities. And it's really an incredible program. And then the 2 other programs, we have Frank X. Walker, who's a former poet laureate from Danville, and Crystal Wilkinson, who's the current poet laureate of Kentucky, who's from Casey County. They're going to be also telling their stories that they relate to community and food. So that evening will be 3 storytelling segments. Then we will have a community conversation just about community and food, and as that relates to race and class. And then we're going to have a cake reception afterward. And we will not be having any store-bought cake. This will all be made by the members of the community as in the spirit of the Making Cake program, which one of the parts of African-American culture which I wasn't aware of was, the difference between scratch cake and box cake. And if you make a box cake, you just threw that together and you made it and you're here. And when you put in the eggs and you spend the money on all of the ingredients and all the time, you're putting love into that. There's a real connection to community when you're doing that. And it goes back to roots of ancestry and your parents and grandparents doing this. So there's a tradition there. So we want to celebrate and honor that by having a cake celebration afterward, a reception, so that we can all kind of break bread. And then the other program is Eric Owens and singers from the Curtis Institute. And that one looks at an opera singer and a vocalist. And don't be afraid of opera, because they're not all opera pieces. There'll be some Broadway songs as well, arias and classical songs.
Is it going to be kind of like a highlight show of opera?
Yes, it'll have pieces from operas, Broadway, and then the songs.
Just the good stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Steve, opera is not at the top of my list of genres. I find that they, for me, because I don't understand them fully, drag a little bit. This sounds like a great way to experience the good stuff, the hits from the operas that you probably remember off the top of your head.
And what's going to be really special about that is Eric Owens is the featured singer. And he is a Grammy-winning performer and opera singer. He's also head of the Curtis Institute's opera program. And he's bringing students, and these are graduate-level students, doctoral students who are specializing. They're meant to be opera performers. They want to be performing at the Metropolitan Opera in New York City and all over the world, and that's where Eric performs. In 2020, Eric performed as Porgy in the Metropolitan Opera's production of Porgy and Bess. Well, some Danville history. In 1930, early to mid 1930s, there was a gentleman named Todd Duncan who was born in Danville, Kentucky. And at some point, he found out because Gershwin contacted him about this new play called Porgy and Bess. And he said, I want you to come audition. And Todd Duncan from Danville said, I won't audition unless you can assure me that all the theaters that we're going to perform nationally on this tour will be, everyone is welcome. It'll be integrated. And that's a time when you couldn't necessarily guarantee that. And Gershwin said, yes, I guarantee that. So a Danville native is the very first Porgy in the Broadway production of Porgy and Bess.
I had no idea about that.
Right?
Another piece of history that...
mind-blowing. And so Eric Owens is the 2020 Porgy at the Metropolitan Opera. So I reached out to him and told him about Todd Duncan and Danville. And is there anything we can do with your program? And he said, I don't know what the rep was at the time, but I will guarantee that there will at least be an encore of a Porgy song that I will sing in honor of Todd Duncan. His people call me back later and say, we did a little more research, and Eric is the head of the opera program at the Curtis Institute. Well, Todd Duncan was on faculty at the Curtis Institute in the opera program as well. So
fascinating.
Isn't that incredible that there's these two, out of nowhere, two people that have this parallel life of sorts?
Only in Danville.
Right? I mean, that's it. To me, it just gives me chills. So.
It's just circle of life kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So we thought that performance and the Making Cake performance were just really natural tie-ins to We Were Here, this exhibition. And there'll be a little blurb about Celebration and how that connects in the exhibit. And there'll be a piece about Todd Duncan in the exhibit.
Fascinating. All right, and that's coming. That'll be in November.
That's in November.
All right, and again, all the details for all this stuff is on the nortoncenter.com website.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about every year we have a holiday show.
Yep.
And this year we're bringing back Natalie McMaster and Donald Leahy, and Natalie is an even more Celtic version of Alison Krauss. And if you love Alison Krauss, you need to come see this. Natalie McMaster is this fiddler and dancer from Canada, from Nova Scotia, and she's just award-winning. She's played with all the great roots Americana musicians, and we get her with her family. Donnell is her husband, and they're bringing their kids, who are all musicians. I presented her in South Dakota many, many years ago, and she was 9 months pregnant, dancing on stage, hoofing, dancing. I was like, oh boy, we're going to have a baby delivered on this stage today, because that's going to come out. She's dancing hard. But even at that point, she had some of her kids performing with her. So it's a musical family. And so what a cool way to celebrate the holidays with this family, with Celtic traditional music.
So shades of Celtic Woman from the
Yes.
KET telethon, shades of Riverdance maybe a little bit in there too.
Absolutely. That's a great way of putting it. Thank you. I'm going to steal that.
Please do.
Voctive is a YouTube sensation group. They are a vocal ensemble that many of them are performers at Disney in Florida, at Disney World, and as vocalists and performers. So that evening of music will include songs from Disney repertoire, from Broadway, and from the Great American Songbook. So it's very easy listening, and it's this great, amazing harmonizing a cappella music with there's about 10 or 12 vocalists on stage at one time with no other instruments.
I bet that'd be a great show to bring a kid to as well.
Oh yeah, how inspiring, and it'll all be fun pop hits. So
a little
recognizable
Disney music in there, things you recognize from the radio, perhaps.
Yep. We have another family fun program called Circus du Bois. Did you ever see The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman?
I've never seen it, Steve.
Putting you on the spot.
Never seen it.
Well, it's kind of a Ringling Brothers kind of story, and in that there are circus performers, and the Great Dubois were part of that show. They were in the movie, and they're going to be doing a circus show, great for all age families. And after that, our final show, and I'll go back to one more, but our final show of the season is going to be the Galvin Cello Quartet. And I thought, last year we had Yo-Yo Ma. You can't get any better than Yo-Yo Ma in the world of cello these days. You just can't. And I thought, let's go the opposite direction, and let's get an emerging ensemble and that connects with cello. And doing my research, I found this group, and they're in residence at Northwestern University, and they're all graduate students or out of school, at 4 cellists, and they're just phenomenal. I've been watching them and hearing them. They won a major award that gives them artist representation and gives them a recording, and they are going to go somewhere. So I thought maybe four emerging artist cellists might add up somewhere to Yo-Yo Ma.
And one of these days you'll be able to say, I saw them way back when they played in Danville.
I hope people do that with a lot of these shows.
Yeah.
We never know if someone's going to tip and become that star that we think they might be. You never know. And I think that they're going to be on that list. So that one's in May 12th, and that'll be a really, really fun program. And then our other blockbuster is in April, and that's the Guess Who. And I've been listening to their greatest hits album. If you have Spotify or whatever platform you listen to music, just check out their greatest hits. I mean, everyone remembers American Woman and These Eyes and No Sugar Tonight, but then there are so many more, and I won't even go through the names, but check them out. I was going, that's 8 songs now I recognize, and on the radio stations I listen to, the classic rock ones, almost every single day I'm hearing the Guess Who. I'm going, okay, this one's going to be a good show.
Just a pillar of the album-oriented rock community.
Yes, they are the pillar. I mean, American Woman is so iconic.
It's been in movies and TV shows, and it's just an iconic song. Exactly. There's no other word to describe it other than that. And they're coming in the spring?
Yes, they'll be in April on the 14th. So that's our season, both visual art and, which is more historic art, or humanities based, with the exhibition about our community.
traditionally, haven't the exhibitions kind of rotated? And you've generally had multiple exhibitions over the course of a year.
Yeah, the last few years we were doing two, one in the fall, one in the spring. And this year we started out that way, but as we were developing this exhibit and the amount of work we were putting in and the significance as we were doing the research, we realized, let's give this one more time. And I went to Michael Hughes and the other board members of the Danville Boyle County African American Historical Society and said, would you mind if we extended this another 4 or 5 months? And they just kind of instantly went back in their chairs in disbelief, like, what? I'm like, yeah, we want to do that. We think more people need to see this. And they were just, blown away.
And as word gets out, it'll kind of snowball, I think. And maybe we can, I bet there are going to be some student groups coming through and
Oh, absolutely. We're setting those up already. So if you're a teacher and want to bring a class, if you're a business owner and want to bring your staff, we will be happy to provide guided tours of the exhibit. We will have some information so that you can be self-guided. Our website will contain a lot of this information eventually. And if we plan early enough, we can also try to get someone from the Historical Society to join on the tour so that they can talk from their perspective, because it really is about the African American community first and foremost.
All right. So all these shows, tickets are available right now.
Yes.
Are single show tickets available at this point?
Yep, they are. So the best thing to do is go online to nortoncenter.com and check out all the shows and which ones you like and put them in your cart. And you can either then do all of that virtually at whatever time of the day you want to do. You're more than welcome to stop by the box office, which is at the Norton Center between 9 and 4 each work day, business day, and talk with one of our staff, or just call us. And our toll-free number, does toll-free really even matter anymore? It's a burning question. I'm like, we're spending money for this 800 number. Do we even need to do that anymore? But the number that is easy to remember is 877-HIT-SHOW. So if you want to call us, we will be happy to take the call and guide you through it. Even if you want to come by and say, can I see where I'd like to be sitting or where these seats are? If the theater is available, we're happy to show you your seats. So we want this to be a great experience from you.
And when they call or come, if they come in, obviously you're going to be talking to someone who works here.
Yes.
Not somebody in a call center.
Right.
It's somebody that knows the building, knows the shows. It's just a wonderful experience all the way around. Steve, even parking's not a big deal around here. You go to a show in a big city and you got to park 4 blocks away, and
Well, we are a casualty of the labor supply issues, and we decided last year to change our valet parking, and we really don't have valet parking. We've converted our lot where we had valet into a parking lot where you can pay a lesser price to park. So we've reduced the amount to park in the parking lot where we did valet parking, so that it's right next to the Norton Center and be even more accommodating for you.
And if somebody has mobility issues, they can be dropped off right at the door.
So I strongly recommend, if you have a special need, to call the box office and let them know what your need is, because we can help you find seats that don't have steps. We can help you find an aisle seat. We can help with parking. We do obviously have handicap parking, but we have reserved handicap parking. We want to make this the best experience. Our ushers will take you from the front door to your seat. If you're in a wheelchair or have a special need or just want that hand holding, we're happy to do that, take you to the elevator. And, we just, if you trust us, that helps us be successful, and it'll hopefully give you the best experience possible too.
Are the ushers and program folks, are those still students?
Yes.
That's got to be the best campus job that ever invented.
And we're the largest employer on campus. So of student workers. So it's a cool gig. It's not every week. It's when there's an event, they get to dress up and I always ask them the first day of our first meeting, I'm like, how many of you want to go into the theater? How many do you want to be arts administrators like me? I know what the answer is. None. Maybe one. None. I said, that's my point. But you're here, and you're our front line. I mean, if you think about any business, whoever's the salesperson, whoever's greeting you at the door, whoever's helping you get to what you need, they're representing that business, that organization. So to put all of your trust into the students, to be respectful, to be knowledgeable, to be fun, it's a lot to put on someone. But when we put it in the perspective of this is going to help you in your career, you're going to learn skills, how to be a better customer service person, how to have better communication. That goes all the way around. I mean, it's full circle for everybody to be lifted up.
Not to mention they get great seats for world-class entertainment.
Absolutely.
Steve, anything else we need to cover?
I think that's it.
That's a lot. Shows start right now.
Yeah, they're going now.
Shows in September.
Well, I thank you so much.
Steve, it's been great to visit with you. Always great to visit with you. Look forward to seeing you. And I'll look for you in the lobby because you're always mixing and mingling with everybody whenever there's a show. And I think that's awesome that you're in the audience with us.
Yeah, anytime if you see me, stop by, say hi, anywhere. I talk to people at Walmart and Kroger and Tractor Supply, and just they start telling me what shows I should bring or what they like.
People have opinions.
I like that. I mean, we get shows because of someone said, "Oh, you should bring the Guess Who," and I'm like, "Oh, I hadn't thought about that for a while," and that planted a seed, and that's where we are.
Well, there's something for. It sounds cliche, but there's really something for everybody in there, no matter what your taste is: country music, rock music, classical music, Broadway. So there's something in there you'll find entertaining.
Yeah, and I don't expect someone to want to see everything or love everything because we all have our likes and dislikes. But give it a try.
Give something out of your comfort zone a try. You'll be, in my experience, I've always been pleasantly surprised. So,
well, good. Well, thank you again. We really appreciate this.
Thank you, Steve. See you soon. Once again, my thanks to Steve Hoffman, Executive Director of the Norton Center for the Arts, for being my guest this week. If you want details about the Norton Center and all the shows coming up in the next 22-23 season, check out their website, nortoncenter.com. I promise you won't be disappointed. It is an absolute treasure that we have in this city. And Steve's a great guy, does a great job managing that operation over there. I'll throw a link to the nortoncenter.com in the show notes. If you want to get in touch with me to talk about this show or real estate, you can email me at manaboutdanville@gmail.com. You can find me on my website, manaboutdanville.com. Follow me on Instagram at manaboutdanville. The Twitter handle is @mandanville. Facebook page @manaboutdanville. And of course, you can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and now YouTube. I'm on the YouTube as well. If you have a moment, hit the subscribe button, give me a like or review or whatever you can. I appreciate those. They're always welcome. Until next time, be well, have a good weekend, and thanks for listening.
That's it. We're out. Thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Subscribe to Man About Danville wherever you access your favorite podcast. And be sure to tell your friends about us. You've been listening to Man About Danville with Logan H. Germann, brought to you by the Logan Company, a commercial and residential real estate brokerage for Danville and Central Kentucky. Know someone who would be a good guest? Want to be a guest yourself? Have an idea for the show? Get in touch with us. Find all our contact information on the web at manaboutdanville.com. Thanks for joining us.